Hi, tonight is the season 4 premiere of Glee. I love this show dearly, but let's face it, it's not without its faults. I've been watching the show from the beginning, and as a writer myself, I'm very interested in how to prolong a story over an extended period of time. I find it really interesting how Glee has such a huge cast and so many stories, and just the effort of trying to balance that all must be really difficult, and kudos to the writers for doing it as well as they do, though I say again, there are some areas of improvement, and I'm in no way saying that I could write Glee better than the current roster of writers. It's just these are my hopes for the next season and the things that I have learned about storytelling from watching Glee all these years. There are a lot of them, so I'm just going to follow on my phone. Number 1, don't retcon your characters. I think the biggest retcon was when all of a sudden Mr. Shu couldn't teach Spanish competently, like he just didn't know what he was doing. How does that make sense? That's only being played for a joke. I was just kind of confused why that would be thrown in other than to introduce the Ricky Martin character. And that brings me to thing number 2. Don't introduce new characters to explain something about an existing character, especially when you have like so many characters. I understand that Glee is a really popular show and it's cool that so many famous people want to guest star on the show, but I feel like Ricky Martin's role could have been different. I mean, you don't have to tear down Mr. Shu just so that Ricky Martin can have a great time on the show. And this is one of the many examples of a character being brought in to explain a character and then just disappearing, like Blaine's brother Cooper. He's just all of a sudden there and then never spoken of again. I understand having characters that kind of pass through and show something about the story. That's all well and good, but this instance it felt like it was supposed to introduce something major about the character, and Cooper just seemed to be there to explain this thing about Blaine that was there for only like that one episode. Like, if Cooper's relationship to Blaine is really that important to how Blaine feels and acts as a person, at least give some build up, introduce him off screen a few episodes before, and then mention the aftermath a few episodes after. I don't remember there being anything like that. And that brings me to thing number 3. Don't drop your background storyline. I feel like I'm going to keep repeating myself that it's tough to balance storylines with such a huge cast, but there are things I want to know about what happened. Like, what's Cooper doing? But more importantly, how's Dave Karofsky? He tried to kill himself. Like, is he okay? We got like a little bit of resolution with Kurt visiting him, but I feel like such importance was given to Dave's story in that one episode that it deserved to be followed up later, and I felt like they were going to follow it up later, and it just didn't happen. And then, remember Artie got the rewalk for Christmas in season 2? Like, does he ever use it? That was a big thing. Artie could walk. And then Ricky Martin's character, didn't he take over the Spanish teaching position? How's he doing with that? And how is Will doing teaching history? I think that's what he's teaching. Thing number 4, commit to your decisions with your characters and give good reasons for them. So last season started out with Quinn being a punk girl. And actually, funny story, initially I thought that was going to be a positive thing for her. I'd watched the Glee Project over the summer, and I had heard that Samuel Larson was supposed to be connected with her characters, and he was supposed to be like a super Christian character too. So I thought she would have met him at like a Christian Bible camp, and they would have hung out, and she would have become like a super cool rock girl. You know, more of a positive influence. I think there's too much of a stereotype that people who choose a punk alternative lifestyle, there's something wrong with them. But since this is TV, she did it because she was troubled and she was searching for a new identity, and I kept wondering, like, why didn't they do this in season 2? Her whole reason for doing it was she was messed up over giving up her baby, and I kind of thought, okay, why did it take a year for this to sink in? And I'm tied in with that, like, why was she so obsessed with getting full custody back? Why did she have to swing to that extreme? I felt she made some reasonable choices in season 1. She was really thinking clearly, and then all of a sudden she was just a little unbalanced. And then she stopped being this punk girl, and there wasn't really a reason given for that. And then there's the whole thing with Rachel's 2 dads and how she keeps mentioning that she has 2 dads, and they're always off screen for like 3 seasons, and we didn't even meet them until halfway through the 3rd season. If you make a character decision like that, then why aren't they as much a part of her life as Bert and Carol are a part of Kurt and Finn's? Things number 5 and 6. Don't let your storylines exist in isolation unless you're writing something postmodern, and show the consequences for everyone involved. I feel like the storyline where Shelby came back and brought Beth, and like the Quinn and Puck thing, that really existed on its own. And there were so many ways in which it could come in to affect the whole rest of the Glee Club, especially like if Shelby was there, why wasn't Rachel featured in scenes with her more? Like, why didn't they show that dynamic more? And like, it's kind of really messed up because Puck slept with Rachel's mom, and Puck used to make out with Rachel. I mean, is that not weird? Thing number 7, and this is a big one. Let your female characters speak for themselves and have agency over their own choices. I feel like there's a lot of mansplaining in Glee. Continually, the female characters are told, this is the choice you have to make, by usually Finn or Mr. Shu. One example I can think of is Rachel making the decision to defer her acceptance to Miata, and she did that so that she could go to New York with Finn and Kurt, her best friends, which is a totally legitimate decision. But then no, Finn says, no, I'm not gonna let you give up on your dream, and I'm gonna figure out what I need to do, so that means that you have to go to New York. And I'm putting you on a train right now, surprise! Oh, that just made me so mad. Thing number 8, when it's irreverent, the poignant moments are touching. When it's serious, those moments are saccharine. So one example is episode 4 of the first season where Kurt comes out to his dad, and that was the same episode where the football team was learning the single ladies dance. Like, there was a good balance between silly and serious. But if you compare that to the whole bullying storyline and Kurt admitting to being bullied, that was a storyline that went, I felt, for too long. I do appreciate that that story was addressed, but I just found it, the way they handled the story, it just went on for a few episodes too long, and it became more of a very special episode type thing. And I feel like it would have been better if the story had been condensed and done in one episode instead of like 5 or 6. Then there's also the example of Quinn finding out she's pregnant, which was funny because Finn just does not understand how hot tubs work, or sex for that matter. Apparently. It was treated with honesty, but also you could laugh at it. But then you compare that with Quinn getting T-boned by a semi when she's texting and driving, and there was a big lead up to that, like she had her phone on the side, and it was a really tense, dramatic situation, and it was just very heavy-handedly like, no, don't text and drive, this is a lesson. Whereas when she found out she was pregnant, there wasn't really any foreshadowing to that, it just happened. And then there's the moment of Emma in episode 2 of the first season telling Will why she has OCD, and Will singing Fix You to Emma when he finds out that her OCD is becoming a real problem and he wants to help her with it. So in recent episodes, Emma seems to only treat her OCD as an actual problem when Will tells her that it's a problem, instead of before she was just coping with it. And both the moments I mentioned, they are sweet moments, but I find if Will is in the position of singing I Will Try to Fix You, it paints him in the light that he needs to tell her what's right and what's wrong and she can't decide for herself, instead of in the position he was in before where he's just supporting her while she did cope with her OCD. Thing number 9, don't try to hit certain points with your story. Choose things that will complement what is there rather than trying to pull your story around something else. Now this does refer to the music. The music of Glee is my favorite part of the show right now. Sometimes there are song choices where I just wonder, like, why? Like Red Solo Cup. Why? I don't get it. What kind of class has red solo cups just on hand? It just confuses me. And then another example is like every tribute episode other than the Madonna one. I don't know, maybe because it was the first one, but I felt like the Madonna episode really worked. It seemed like they picked the songs for the storylines rather than saying, okay, let's do an episode that's all on rumors and let's kind of push the storylines to fit with these certain songs. Thing number 10, refer to a story's theme in more ways other than just repeating a theme word over and over and over again. Granted, Glee is a lot better at this lately, but there was a period in like second half of season 1, beginning of season 2, where it was just like over and over and over again. Thing number 11, plots can deal with romance, but they shouldn't revolve around it. Rory's entire storyline was basically about him coming to America and all he wanted to do was get a girlfriend. So once he got a girlfriend, it was kind of like, okay, you can go away now. If romantic pursuit is the only objective for a character in the context of a larger narrative, once they obtain that goal, then they really don't have any other purpose in the story. And of course there's Finn and Rachel toing and froing. I find whenever they break up and get back together, it does little to show how the characters change and more just to create drama. And that brings me to thing number 12. Don't create drama, let the drama create itself. We get more romantic drama between the characters, and like that, it's high school. It happens. That's a huge part of high school. But we don't see enough of them making choices for songs for nationals, for sectionals, for regionals. It's just all of a sudden they have a set list. There are so many rehearsal room dramas that could go on besides Mercedes or Rachel or Santana being a total diva and getting called on it. I really like for their nationals performance when like Quinn had just recovered from being in the wheelchair and Mercedes was sick and they were all freaking out about the dance choreography and they didn't know what to do. I want to see more of that. And all this being said, get up on stage and start to sing. I feel like any flaws in the storytelling when they're not singing are corrected when they perform through the songs. I feel like all of the actors on this show really know how to emote through music and really perform a song in a way that is not just singing the song, singing the lyrics, but actually bringing meaning to that song for their character. And I feel like they do most of the time make some really good choices with songs. The songs just make sense for character development. If that's not represented in the dialogue, it's represented in the songs. Yep, Glee does music very well, and their mashups are second to none, and I just love seeing what they come up with, and I love how they reinterpret songs in ways that you never even thought they could be. So for that, Glee is just an excellent show, and I am so looking forward to the next season. Are you going to be watching? Please let me know what you think. Enjoy the show, and I will see you next time. Bye!